Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm playing host this week. Samantha has figured out a tricky way to extend Christmas longer than any of us have been able to do. So we're hoping that she's having fun with her grandkids and stuff and everything like that. And they're just having a good time, and that she's getting all the presents she wants and seeing the joy and everything in her grandkids, because that's really something special to watch. So we look forward to seeing her back next week, and hopefully Jason is doing okay and having a nice Christmas and New Year's. And based on what Catherine said, we're waiting for Kenneth to get jumped on. But in between, I'll let everybody else jump out and introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Good morning. It's Lori Emmons in Denver.
Good morning. It's Catherine Clement. And I had a wonderful Christmas. It's very good to get family together that hadn't been together in a long, long time. And hoping that everybody out there had one. I missed being here for the last couple of weeks. Seems like it's been even longer than that on one hand, and then on the other hand, it's just a second to go. But hopefully Kenneth will get out on here and then I can start the reading. Let me look back and see, kind of remind us where we were.
Yeah, because we took a break.
I thought we got further than that. I'm looking back and it says, "This is the best life," she told herself a little desperately now. This is the best life. And she goes on with that, but she knew she didn't have long. So maybe we're further. Didn't we get past that? I thought we were way past that. Let me see. There's nothing she could do to stop it. Yeah, maybe we were at nowhere to land. Let me see. Good morning, Kenneth. We're just trying to figure out where we ended last time.
Good morning, Kenneth. Nice to see you.
How come I can't hear you?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us yet, Kenneth?
Or can we hear him?
Yeah, I could hear him when he talked.
Yeah, for that brief second, we could hear him. Looks like he's still having a little issues, but he did
I'm
say
here.
hello. Oh,
He's
okay.
here.
He
All right.
said
I
hello
finally
in the
got in.
chat.
It took all of my talent to get here. All right, I'm ready.
Do you remember where we ended last time?
Not exactly, but it seemed like she was transitioning, so nowhere to land might be. Read the last little
Actually,
bit.
I think we got past that because I'm flipping through and I'm seeing stuff I've already read. So hang with us, Kenneth. We're trying to figure out where we're at.
It's all good.
When we get stop for a couple of weeks. I mean, my memory doesn't even last an hour, so. But I thought I had bookmarked it. Okay. Excuse me. Let me mute.
I haven't
All
been
right.
on
I
for a
think we're
couple
at
weeks.
"Don't You Dare Give Up, Nora Seed." I think that's where we're at.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't you dare give up, Nora Seed. Let me see if I can find a page number. I don't see a page number, but anyway. All right. Nora walked through the haze.
It's
Oh,
page 268 of 289
okay.
in the Kindle.
268 or somewhere around there. Don't you dare give up, Nora Seed. Nora walked through the haze of dust and smoke in the direction Mrs. Elm had pointed towards as the ceiling continued to fall. It was hard to breathe and to see, but she had just about managed to keep count of the aisles. Sparks from the lights fell onto her head. The dust stuck in her throat, nearly causing her to vomit. But even in the powdery fog, she could see that most of the books were now ablaze. In fact, none of the shelves of books seemed intact, and the heat felt like a force. Some of the earliest shelves and books set on fire were now nothing but ash. Kenneth, if I could get you to mute. I'm hearing a little bit, if it's probably my own voice coming back at me through your speaker. There you go, thanks. Just as she reached the 11th aisle, she was hit hard by a chunk of falling debris that floored her. Pressed under rock, she felt the pen slip out of her hand and slide away from her. Her first attempt to free herself was unsuccessful. This is it. I am going to die, whether I want to or not. I am going to die. The library was a wasteland. 000041, 42. It was all over. She was certain of it. Once more, she was going to die here, as all her possible lives were ravished all around her. But then she saw it, amid a brief clearing in the clouds. There, on the 11th aisle, that way, third shelf from the bottom. A gap in the fire that was consuming every other book on the shelf. I don't want to die. She had to try harder. She had to want the life she always thought she didn't, because just as this library was part of her, so too were all the other lives. She might not have felt everything she had felt in those lives, but she had the capability. She might have missed those particular opportunities that led her to become an Olympic swimmer or a traveler or a vineyard owner or a rock star or a planet-saving glaciologist or a Cambridge graduate or a mother or the million other things, but she was still in some way all those people. They were all her. She could have been all those amazing things, and that wasn't depressing, as she had once thought. Not at all. It was inspiring, because now she saw the kinds of things she could do when she put herself to work, and that actually the life she had been living had its own logic to it. Her brother was alive, Izzy was alive, and she had helped a young boy stay out of trouble. What sometimes feels like a trap is actually just a trick of the mind. She didn't need a vineyard or a Californian sunset to be happy. She didn't even need a large house and the perfect family. She just needed potential. And she, if nothing, was nothing if not potential. She wondered why she had never seen it before. She heard Mrs. Elm's voice from under the table somewhere far behind her, cutting through the noise. Don't give up. Don't you dare give up, Nora Seed. She didn't want to die, and she didn't want to live any other life than the one that was hers, the one that could be a messy struggle, but it was her messy struggle, a beautiful messy struggle. 0052, 000053. As she writhed and pushed and resisted the weight on top of her, and as the seconds ticked on, she managed, with a great exertion that burned and stifled her lungs, to get back onto her feet. She scrambled around on the ground and found the fountain pen, thickly coated in dust, then ran through the particles of smoke to reach the 11th aisle. And there it was, the only book not burning, still there, perfectly green. Flinching at the heat, and with a careful index finger, she hooked the top of the spine and pulled the book from the shelf. She then did what she always did. She opened the book and tried to find the first page. But the only difficulty was that there was no first page. There were no words in the entire book. It was completely blank. Like the other books, this was the book of her future. But unlike the others, in this one, that future was unwritten. So this was it. This was her life, her root life. and it was a blank page. Nora stood there a moment with her old school pen in hand. It was now nearly 1 minute after midnight. The other books on the shelf had become charcoal, and the hanging light bulb flickered through the dust, vaguely illuminating the fractured ceiling. A large piece of ceiling around the light, roughly the shape of France, was looking ready to fall and crush her. Nora took the lid off the pen and pressed the open book against the charred stack of bookshelves. The ceiling groaned. There wasn't long. She started to write. Nora wanted to live. Once she'd finished the inscription, she waited a moment. Frustratingly, nothing happened, and she remembered what Mrs. Elm had once said. Want is an interesting word. It means lack. So she crossed that out and tried again. Nora decided to live. Nothing. She tried again. Nora was ready to live. Still nothing. Even when she underlined the word live, everywhere now there was breakage and ruination. The ceiling was falling, raising everything, smothering each of the bookshelves into piles of dust. She gaped over and saw the figure of Mrs. Elm out from under the desk where she had been sheltering Nora, standing there without any fear at all, then disappearing completely as the roof caved in almost everywhere, smothering remnants of fire and shelf stacks and all else. Nora, choking, couldn't see anything at all now, but this part of the library was holding out, and she was still there. Any second now, everything would be gone. She knew it. So she stopped trying to think about what to write, and in sheer exasperation, just put down the first thing that came to her, the thing that she felt inside her like a defiant, silent roar that could overpower any external destruction. The one truth she had, a truth she was now proud of and pleased with, a truth she had not only come to terms with, but welcomed openly with every fiery molecule of her being. A truth that she scribed hastily but firmly, pressing deep into the paper with the nib in capital letters in the first person present tense. A truth that was the beginning and seed of everything possible, a former curse and a present blessing. 3 simple words containing the power and potential of a multiverse. I am alive. And with that, the ground shook like fury, and every last remnant of the Midnight Library dissolved into dust. Give me just 1 second.
What do you guys think? Do you think we have enough just in this chapter, or do you guys want to see what the next one has to say?
I want to see what comes next myself.
Okay.
Or is it too much if we continue?
I personally think there's a lot in this part, but like I missed the last couple sections, so I don't know what's transpired in a couple of the other lives that you guys may have done. But if you want to do Awakening, we can do that. It's short. It's Jason. Yeah, we can do Awakening.
I'm not sure Awakening is going to give us any more clarity looking through it. It's just
Okay.
going to get us to another. Yeah, we can stop now.
Okay.
I am alive.
Morning,
The
Jason.
library dissolved
Glad you.
into dust.
Sorry. Morning, Jason. Glad you joined us.
Good morning. Thank you. Morning, Lori. Good morning, Catherine. Good morning,
Good morning. Glad you joined us.
Kath. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine.
Okay, thank you.
Um, So as I've missed the last couple of weeks, I don't know what she's gone through, but in the build up to this chapter, I have felt that all along it was going to lead to ultimately her making a decision about her own life, which I think is a big thing because I think a lot of people out in the world today are kind of in the same realm as what Nora's in. You know, they're living, but they're not living. They don't feel alive. They don't like their lives. They just kind of wish it would just they won't end it, but yet they wish their life would end because they don't see any value in themselves. And but yet I think it's something we all have to ultimately come to realize that there is value in our own lives and in who we are and what we're about and our place here on the earth, which I think all of us here going through a lot of the books that we've gone through in the past with mindset and things like that, that's when it's the universal things I think we're learning and have learned is that we have to first find value in ourselves and that, you know, whatever our purpose may be, even if we haven't found it, there is a purpose for us to be here. And I think Nora finally has realized that about herself. And so now she's ready to live, even though she's been alive all along.
I'll hop out real quick. I'd just like to say from the previous readings that I agree with you, Dan. That's some profound words of what you said, some insight there. It did seem that her that character had been living her life, even though she had goals and aspirations. Um, it seemed that she sort of chose paths in that first um, life path according to what she thought uh, was going on in other people's lives, rather than to um, have her own human experience and experience the world through her own eyes and for her own sake and for the universe's sake. Perhaps I'd like to think that um, we were put on this planet to experience life and the world for God, um, as a part of God, and as its ability to experience the world as human beings, and so to have this precious gift of life and to come on into this life and then not live it for that purpose and for our own purpose, but instead to always appease and um, others and always worry about how our decisions are um, good decisions for the better are going to maybe impact others and kind of forsake our own human experience worrying about how others will be impacted, um, might just take away from the experience that we are bringing into the universe from from our own path or what we were supposed to, what we were set out to do. But that's just a thought, right?
I agree with you a lot on that, and something else that came to me, and also I know for me in my life, a lot of times I tend to do things and not do things because I perceive how it might affect others' lives. And I see how, looking back in some ways, it's affected my life and how I've lived and kept me from, and actually, I'm not going to say it kept me, I kept me from living some of the aspects of my life that I feel I could have lived, wanted to live, but didn't live and maybe didn't have the strength and where, wherewithal in me at that time. And as I've gotten older, I'm learning more and more that, I can't necessarily let everything else rule my life. I just have to live my life and sometimes let the chips fall where they may, good or bad, because things are going to happen anyway. And there's a difference to going around and living life reactively rather than living life proactively and intently. And I think that's some of what Nora was doing. She was more being reactively and just, like a pinball, kind of just, okay, oh, well, if I go here, oh, well, I don't want to, do too much there because it may affect their life rather than, well, let me affect their life, but hopefully it's in a positive way and helps them live their best life. And, sometimes you just have to accept that whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, did you get the idea that she was sort of trying to avoid having a negative impact on her loved ones? I sort of did. Uh,
But I think in some ways, if we're all a little bit honest, I think we all tend to do that a little bit. Some of us do it more than others.
yeah, so striking a balance, um, striking a balance and sometimes being re reactive and a lot of times being proactive and um, thoughtful, selfish, unselfish. I mean, striking that balance can seem a little daunting, but again, that's probably part of the human experience. Um, and I feel lucky to be here to try to navigate that. I think it seemed also like she was also sort of, I want to say stuck, but choosing to stay in sort of some sort of a comfort zone in order to avoid um, having a negative impact or avoid not being there for, um, like, say, her brother or, um, just sort of being in that comfort zone. Yet she had grown really tired of it and had, put her into a state of depression because of it. And I think being aware of that is important too, because comfort zone is there, but then again, as I just mentioned, that balance of being able to step out and really put yourself out there so you can experience as much as you can is is not only um, allows you to grow, but might also uh, open up new wonders and fantastic things in your life that you wouldn't otherwise have seen and experienced. Maybe
I-
that's what that part is all about, is allowing, the Midnight Library and all this and everything, allowing her to see a little bit of that.
Sorry, I seem to be taking up a lot of the chat this morning, but a lot of things have been popping in my head. It's interesting at this point in the stage in the book where she is, I guess, basically making that choice and writing in her root life, I am alive. It makes me wonder and the fact that the book looks like been wiped clean so that she can start living, I guess, at some point, or state to start living. I'm wondering what the first original entry was when she was old enough and started theoretically writing the story of her life. I wonder what that first entry was, based out of whatever happened that made her to start living her life more like, oh, I don't want to do this because it could affect that, or I don't want, I don't want to upset or not have these people in my life and so therefore started her down the path of not living, in a sense. I'm wondering what that first inscription or first sentence or first whatever part might have said. It just,
It's very difficult facing the blank page, not knowing what's going to happen and what to write.
ooh, you make it, but that's a good point. I wonder if there was anything and if at that point when back when her younger, when her life was starting and she was kind of starting to write the book of her life, I wonder if that was part of it, the blankness of not knowing what to write and therefore being afraid to even react or do anything for fear of, interesting thought. I never thought of it that way, looking at that blank page aspect like that.
Well, trying to rewrite your life or to start with what you have. And when you're challenged with what you have, and then you have all the influence of what people think and what are people going to say and how is it going to affect them, because we're all just one part of the same body. And in my opinion anyway.
No, valid opinion. But even when I look back at some of the things and try to recall and remember some of now it's vague and but yet at the same point, a lot of who I am and what I'm about is ingrained in me. But yet there are aspects and it makes me think, have I lived as much as I could have lived or should have lived? See, that's another question, because she's finally deciding that she is alive. I know I'm alive, but yet have I lived as much as I could have?
I agree with Kenneth. We all have the blank page every day that we can write a new life every day. Um, and Lori, like you said, when you get these big challenges, that's a blank page every time because sometimes you write your life and it's going and everything's going good, and then wham, something happens. Or, you develop an illness or whatever happens, circumstances change, and then you're given a blank page essentially. You can kind of decide whether you're going to dwell on what happened in the past or look forward to what's in the future. Like I don't really care why she wrote the pages she wrote. I'm interested to see what she's going to write for her future. What is she going to choose? Because she's lucky in the fact that she has memories of all these other lives, and she can really say, well, you know, I thought I wanted to be that, but like I don't even remember what her root life was. Was it the one where she was an Olympic swimmer and she did that for her dad? That's the one that comes to mind. But
I, I think
basically,
she started out in that um, music store.
oh, the music store. Yeah. And they
Yeah,
were going to do the band.
yeah, and her cat Voltaire had just died, and yes,
Like
So
you
that's,
say, it doesn't matter what she had written or had done. It's what are you going to do from here on out?
yeah. Yeah. Every morning we get that blank page. And you're right, Lori. It is scary sometimes because we're always afraid that we're going to make the wrong choice. And at some point, you come to the realization there is no wrong choice. Like it's just all living. And what you look back of and think that maybe was a wrong choice was a lot of times that was a blessing in disguise. It's the stuff that we look at and shake our head and go, why did that have to happen? There's always later on, it's usually years later on, but you can look back and say, oh my God, that was such a blessing that that happened because I totally would have done this or that or the other. And then I'd have been in way worse shape than what I am now.
Perhaps you hit on something there too, Lori, that that's part of a big or a difficult thing to do is to approach every day as though you have a blank page, because isn't it kind of our nature to drag our past into everything we do in the present?
Yeah, it gets difficult when your circumstances don't allow you to um, do the things you think you want to do. Physical can't do it, or your finances can't do it.
but I like what Kenneth wrote. He said, "I know today I can have anything I want. I just have to envision, believe it, so with feeling and intention. But what life to choose? What life do I really want?" And you know, and I think that's part of it within the confines of whether we're dealing with stuff physically, financially, even emotionally, things like that. But yeah, I really like the idea of waking up each day, and I've known it, but I've never really have put it forth that way in my own life. Is every day I have a new day to write my life story, and I can change where I'm at. I can change the course, where it's going by what I decide today. I don't have to be stuck by what was done yesterday. And
Yeah.
or even in the past, or even, but sometimes that's easier said than done too. Sometimes, we get so caught up in what's going on that we forget that we can stop and make that abrupt right turn or left turn or turn around if we need to, And I think, me included, I tend to just go with whatever the flow is, wherever the waves are taking me right now, towards whatever shore it's taking me towards, rather than turning the boat around and going a different direction.
And it doesn't even have to be by the day, it can be by the minute, Sometimes our human side gets the best of us. And we might do things that we regret or say things we regret. We can feel bad about that for a long time, but what are we doing to change that situation or make that situation better? Whether we can make it better with that person or not, maybe not. It kind of depends on that person, but we can recognize it within ourselves and recognize why we acted or felt the way we did, and then hopefully prevent that sort of thing from happening in the future. We can rewrite the way we interact with people, or we can rewrite the way we feel about ourselves. We've talked about that a lot, how we're our own worst enemies, beating ourselves up. Learning how to get along with humans starts with ourselves a lot of times.
I'd like to think I graduated from that school. I don't want to beat myself up anymore.
Kenneth wrote, and this is a really, really powerful point. It says, when we don't live like that new each day, monotony sets in and we take life for granted. We lose the magic of living in the here and now. And it says, he says, it makes me cry. And I think he's right. I think, that is something that we do. We just let the monotony of, I tend to do that a lot. I get up, I do my day, I go do my Ubering, I go do this, I come, and sometimes I forget that there's more than just that. There's other things and that I can add to that and bring more into it. But sometimes the routine, and I hate admitting this, but in a way, I kind of like my routine. I know what's going to go, I know what's going to happen, but yet always something happens that throws kinks in it, and then I get very out of place, very irritated, you know, and then I wonder why that happens. Is probably because life's trying to slap me upside the head a little bit, wake me up and say there's more to this and then just this. And maybe that's part of what life is throwing at me to help wake me up a little bit more.
Well, I really appreciate it when something different happens out of the blue, because otherwise I can have a very mundane existence. But the trick is to find the joy in it, find something amazing, something different. And you just have to do that.
So many great thoughts, so many great points. I'm having a difficult time of choosing one to step into and speak upon, because it's but what you're saying there, Lori, is, I feel like that is such a huge point in finding joy and beauty in life, um, daily, kind of no matter what it is. Um, you know, holding in, holding the solid idea of no matter what it is that you are experiencing, it is somehow working out to your benefit, so that even those things that sort of blindside you and throw you off your schedule at the moment is something that you can appreciate and may even allow you to expect even more wonderful things from it. I think that being able to hold that in your mind and as part of your focus daily is a wonderful thing. And I liked how you put that. Thank you.
I think it's interesting how, given our circumstances, we always try to change them. And I'm in particularly talking about, in this instance, say people with disabilities or something that is really limiting to their experience. I am around a lot of people with such lives, and I see that we are always striving to change that, to fix that health condition, or to change that situation for a multitude of reasons. Sometimes just for comfort if there's pain involved, or sometimes because society sees us as less than, because we are unable to go out and perform the duties that society has deemed to be the way to live. And so sometimes we're trying to change ourselves so that we can be more acceptable or more lovable or whatever. Um, and maybe God just wanted to experience life as a disabled person. Like maybe we aren't supposed to change it at all. Maybe we are just supposed to realize that this is God's experience, and we're kind of here just to allow that to happen. Not to say that we shouldn't strive to be better if we want to, but I think we really need to look at our motives of why we're trying to change what we're trying to change, and see if those motives are, like in Nora's case, when the life where she was an Olympic swimmer, she didn't really want to be a swimmer, but she did all of that for her father. I think we really should look at our motives, even for why we're trying to change simple things within our own lives.
Yeah,
Kenneth said,
changing. Go
sorry.
ahead.
Kenneth said, yes, I needed to know what it felt to not be loved. From birth, I have a new appreciation for life today. And I think that's true, Kenneth. If we were to take a poll amongst quote disabled people, and I know that's a broad category, so please don't villainize me for it, but and even amongst non-disabled people, there's just this huge experience here on earth, is what I'm going to call it, of wanting to feel loved and accepted. I mean, it is a survival aspect of our species, because as humans, we're incredibly helpless. Like if you look at all the other animals on the planet, they are up and running within minutes sometimes, and humans are basically worthless for, a couple years before they can really get up and about and feed themselves and things like that. So as humans, being loved is huge to us because we know if we're not loved, we're not going to survive. And so when we come here as pure love, as spirits who know nothing else but love and acceptance, and then we come here and we're like in this little body that doesn't even work, and we're totally dependent on others to provide even our basic needs. And then if those needs don't get met as a baby, or as a child, those unmet needs can develop into many different things. And in some people, that results in disease and disability, and other people, it results in um, having mental challenges. Other people, it results in being a workaholic. Other people, I mean, there's so many different ways that it manifests itself, but it's still that experience of feeling loved or accepted or wanted, or for people even to acknowledge your existence.
Interesting point you just made, Catherine, because I think that's, along with a lot of the other things we talked about, I think that's one of the key driving forces of, as people go through and live their lives, that's the underlying courses, looking for that love and acceptance somewhere. And sometimes it's from things that are not good for us, but yet if you get it there, then you're going to stay there because that's where you get it. And sometimes, going out and learning to love yourself wholeheartedly first, and one with God, that's where I think that's where true love really starts. And then from there, then you might still search it for it, but it's hopefully, as I'm learning and growing a little bit more, it's not so all encompassing and driving me out to look for it in areas that it's not going to, for lack of a better word, be real in the sense of what we're all looking for. I mean, we're looking for, like you said, what we came from being one with God and being in love and acceptance and just totally in that love to this in a very cruel world where, it isn't there, except for what you manifest and create, hopefully through learning and growing and one, loving yourself first and then loving others, to me, the way you want to love and be loved.
What were you going to say, Lori? Do you remember?
No, I don't. I
Sorry.
was going to say something. Oh,
Yeah, you were.
You had that look.
What Kenneth says on the side, though, unloved manifests itself in ugly ways, feeling unloved, and it's got to come from inside of us. That's the lesson. That is indeed the lesson. Everybody's looking for love from the outside, and we are love. I mean, that which animates this body is love. That which is speaking to you at this moment is love. And why we can't feel that and accept that as is the lesson, and some of us get put in really bad positions so that the only thing we can do is sit around and think about shit like this and figure it out.
That's what we're doing here, right?
Yep, that's it. Because
Oh,
I
go ahead,
was
finish.
no, I was just gonna say it's remarkable to me and amazing and fascinating life is every day at the things that it brings me, the things it puts right in front of me and flashes little signs at me to pay attention to and not to pay attention to and shy away from. But I had to be stopped to get to that point. I had to be thrown off the back of a horse, decades ago, because I was a working machine. I was a nurse. I was saving babies. You know, I was on that, living the same day for 80 years and calling it a life. I was on that track. And it's not that it was a bad track. I was doing good work, saving babies. It's good work. But would I have learned the lessons in this life that I obviously needed to learn, came here to learn, if I had stayed on that track? Nope, I sure wouldn't have. I'd have just gotten up every day and gone to work, and I wouldn't have had the time or the need to do the searching that I've done to get to where I am now. And happiness comes in many ways, but there's a on a daily basis, there's a lot of things I'm not necessarily happy about, but as a whole, I am deeply content in where I'm at in life this time. But it wasn't an easy path to get here. And I guess some people, um, everybody has to figure out the lesson in a different way. I don't know why I had to choose this way to figure it out, and I'm sure there's a lot more to figure out. I'm not saying I know it all. I'm just saying I'm pleased with where I'm at right now. God doesn't have to throw me off anything else. You listening to me out there, I hope.
Yeah, it's very important to uh, be happy with what is. I could beat myself up. I do. I've wondered so much. Is it something I did? I don't believe the world works that way, that I'm being punished or anything like that. And just deciding to be the best I can with what is, instead of always wishing for something to be different, accepting what you're going through, what I could become a big itch with a bee if I let myself get into the depressing part of it and whatever. It's just really strange how to manifest what isn't there.
I was gonna throw something out, and I think I'm right in what I'm saying, but I'm not sure because I'm still growing in the process. But I believe that the more that you love and love yourself and love from the inside going out, it's easier to love other people and spread that love out that way. And then it helps bring more, rather than happiness, but joy, and like for you, Catherine, contentment with wherever you're at and whatever's going on, and to be able to accept what's going on and happening in my life, and to realize that, again, from now today, tomorrow I have another day to rewrite my page and go from there and take what I've learned and what I've grown from and the love out of that, and take that forward and write that page going forward. And then I wanted to throw out that Kenneth is saying exactly, I love me, I'm worth taking the effort. And that's completely new for him. And then he says the lack of control and power, I think in response to a little bit of what you were saying, Lori. And then he says, yes, 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 it's the only way, authenticity.
A lot of times I think if I could tell my story authentically, I don't know. It's meant for me. I don't know that anyone else could really handle, and especially not however, I'm not bragging or whatever. I just have to be grateful for what I have. And it always could be worse. And it's another one of those statements that people just throw around, whatever. And I don't want to slap that on me, So, oh, I'm this, I'm that. But
I think there are people that could handle your story, Lori, and they're the ones that you want to share it with. There are other people that would go back to within themselves and their how do I say this, issues or their things, and like you said, slap those things on or say those things, and it's probably because it's making them squirm a little bit, and sometimes we need to squirm a little bit so we can get a little more truthful about even our own lives.
Well, the reason that we're here living our story is because we're the ones that can handle it, I guess. I don't know what else to think. Lori, I know
yeah,
what you mean about, I understand what you're saying about your story. It's, you know, that's why God sent us to live this piece for him, I guess. I don't know. He's like, got to send the A team for this one.
yeah, definitely. Our lives are made specifically for us individually and collectively. Because my story might be interesting, but for what Catherine might know a little more than the rest of you, but it has been so much. And part of me, I need to get it written down and fill out that blank page for others to benefit from what I've been through. And a lot of it by my own personal choices, and hard not to have regrets about that when you see the consequences of your choices.
I just put in the chat, but while you were talking, Lori, I said, yeah, when you and Catherine talking about the strength and that, we're living our lives because God believes that we have that strength. And I'm sitting there, I wonder about the strength of living this life because I don't feel I have the strength a lot of the time. And I'm asking God for strength to get through my day. A lot of times every day, it's like, just, you know, sometimes I, just have to ask for that strength because there are days where I'm just like, you know, and I'm being honest, I'm like, really, do I really have to just go through this? But and then every day I wake up the next day and it's like, okay, I'm still here, so you know, it didn't kill me yet. So, but that's where I'm at a lot of times. It's like, as I'm just out and about, it's like, Lord, give me strength, because right now I don't got it.
Should we see what else Nora has going on?
It's 8:11, so we've been on about an hour now or so. So, I don't know about you guys. Do we want to do a little bit more, or do we want to call it and wait and see what the next life has next week?
I think that we should call it a day, but I do want to read what Kenneth put over here because it is absolute truth. What we put out comes back. If we think we lack strength, the universe will send things our way to, let's say, increase our strength. And that is so true. That's why we have to be careful what we think. And Kenneth, you weren't here when we read a book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, or something like that. I mean, we've read a lot of books about what to say when you talk to yourself. And, we have to remind ourselves, though, to be careful about what we think, because it's true. If we think we lack strength, universe will send something along to show us how strong we are. So
Yeah,
be
that's what I
careful
always
what you
say.
think.
And what you ask for, because you ask for patience, you're going to be tried to learn patience. If you ask for whatever, you're going to be challenged.
That's right.
Yeah, I have to admit, when we were doing the Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao, that's the one book I was you all were very for it. I was at the beginning of very not so for it, I will readily admit. But after having gone through that book, and that book did take us a long time to get through it, but it was a powerful book. And it actually, as I said before, when we did it, it increased my own faith of my beliefs and added to it. But it really spoke a lot into of the power that God has given us in within our lives. And that was overall now that and a couple of the other books we've done, over the last couple of years, have all been powerful. And I'm really loving this book so far for a fiction book. Wow, it's just packed so much into it. So, any last thoughts from anybody else?
Make it a wonderful week. Love you guys and girls.
Love you too. Happy New Year to everyone.
Oh, yeah. Happy New Year.
Love and light. Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Thank you
Happy New
all.
Year. I hope you all have a safe and happy and fun New Year's. And I believe that the new year will bring a lot of good things for all of us. Love you guys and look forward to seeing you guys next week. And hopefully Samantha will be back with us after sneaking an extra week of Christmas. I hope that she has a awesome new year too. So look forward to seeing you guys next time on the Saturday morning. Oh, you can find us on Facebook at Mindset Mastery Collective. You can also find us on YouTube at Mindset Mastery Collective, and you can get replays of all the stuff there. On Facebook, you can find out how to join us on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. And we also have a website where it gives you all the information there at mindsetmasterycollective.com, where you can find out all about us. And we look forward to seeing you next week. So see you next week. That's it for the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye.